Hello, Generals. Fiasco here. I hope you're having a great night. So, we're taking a look at the Army screen and the officers I've chosen before we jump into the Battle of Distress Call. Mostly, I've prioritized taking officers that I think are going to promote. And note that I did delete and then reform 2nd Ordnance as I realized they were the artillery unit that had the perk I didn't like. However, I didn't have enough men to fully fill out the unit. So notice that in the last video, the enemy army here was about 5,700 soldiers, and because of as many guys as I'm bringing, the army has scaled up. The AI is going to come from both sides here, and then I'm going to just kind of turn this little block of woods into sort of a little fort and kind of hang out in the south. That's what I expect. Spoiler alert, man, this is a messy fight. So the Confederate forces are going to come from the north. This is the game. The game gives you this nice briefing. If you play if you've played this enough times, I think most of us just skip it over. But the AI gives you a briefing, and in this battle you get some attached troops as well, some allies you can utilize. And I think it's 2 infantry brigades, roughly 800 or 700-ish a pop, and then 2 units of skirmishers, give or take 200, and then a unit of cavalry. So that's Edwin you see in the center of the screen there. So this rectangle with the square, sorry, it's a square, not a rectangle, but with the, what's the word I'm looking for? Diagonal lines in the middle of it, that's your deployment area. You have that much space to play with, and you see that 0-2 hovering over it. That's how many forces I can bring into the battle initially. So I prioritize disruption early on in this fight. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my cavalry unit and then one of my infantry units, and then I'm going to pause the game. This is an important step. The first thing you should do is probably pause the game and issue your initial orders. And so where I'm sending Brewster and the supply wagon, that's going to be kind of our fort that we initially operate out of. And I'm essentially giving up control of the first supply depot, the one up top. And that's predominantly because the Confederacy likes to operate in that block of forest way to the north of the screen. And they can do so with relative impunity. So if I let them fight there, I'm just basically begging to kind of grind it out. So the AI can come in where the skirmisher unit is now across that bridge, or there's a ford way to the north, and I don't know which one they're going to use, so I'm going to check them both. And if I can keep them from crossing, that gives me the opportunity to, because the numbers are relatively similar, right? 6,300 to 6,700. If I can keep a significant portion of their force tied up across the river, that means that theoretically what's left over, being the overwhelming majority of my force, has the option of defeat in detail. It doesn't quite play out that way. So while this is all going on, okay, so we see our first unit. This is why I've got this skirmisher out here. I believe pretty strongly in the value of knowing where the enemy is and having recon, even if that recon isn't shooting anybody, even if they don't kill a single person in the course of the battle. I still think that skirmishers telling me about the enemy's movements and force structure and everything like that's totally worthwhile. Goodness, those stats. So this is surprising to me that they give me my reinforcements so early. So I've played this battle maybe, 8 times, and usually they really make you wait to get your reinforcements. So this might be one of the changes in the 1.10 patch where they gave you your reinforcements way earlier. This just seems needlessly early to me. But hey, whatever. So I talked about it in the last video. I use you can hold the left mouse button and select a specific path. You do not want heavy infantry or line infantry to spend any more time than they need to walking through woods. It drains their condition, and it also they move really slowly through that kind of terrain. But paradoxically, of course, you want them fighting from the exact same woods. Artillery also has the same problem, trying to move through woods. So it's best to take the time in this particular battle to use the road, and to get where you're going faster. And notice how much faster first infantry is moving versus, say, second in the woods there. So I can't believe I've gotten this lucky. I think in the past I've seen kind of a mix that uses the ford and then uses the bridge, and you don't know what's going on. It looks like everything's trying to cross at the ford where I've got my dudes. And so that's interesting because you have the opportunity to fire at guys in the water. So the way that works is take a look at Edwin's cover right now. It's 87%. Well, now it's first infantry is 37. But Edwin's at 87 and he's in cover in the woods. Those guys in the river, they have 0% cover. And cover works as kind of like armor against incoming shooting, and they have none of it. So every shot that could be effective is effective. Let's see if I click on first infantry to give you a kind of a counter example. So I don't, I guess. So if I click on regular dudes just hanging out in a grass field, I think they have 23% cover or whatever. So you still have some cover. People crossing rivers have none. So there's a huge portion of their force just stuck behind that river there. And they're probing me. So this is the cavalry unit. This guy ends up being kind of a pain in my ass. And I'm getting all my dudes online and everything. And I've got the rifled guns here, the 3-inch ordnance, or they call it a 10-pound, I think, in this game. And it's a phenomenal weapon. I think I'm too aggressive with it. Let's take a second for commentary. I play this battle terribly. I have seen people, I've watched a dozen videos of people playing this battle, and they do it very cleanly and everything. And every time I try and play it and utilize best practice that I see in other folks' videos, I just maim it. I don't know what is wrong with me. I'm so aggressive or whatever. But I think for me, what I think it is I got so used to playing with Confederate soldiers or Confederate recruits who just have really good stats that coming to the Union and utilizing Union infantry stats, I was like, oh wait, I can't do that. I can't do the kind of crap that I can regularly pull with the Confederacy, and it did not. None of it went nearly as well. So I've got detached skirmishers from 1st Infantry moving to just kind of watch that bridge and make sure that I did indeed see all the things I thought I saw, where I think I'm seeing basically their entire second portion of their army crossing that ford, and if I can milk it for kills. So here they come running in. This is their first, and as far as I can remember, only big charge. And essentially, I let them make contact and then pummel that unit with fire from other sides, and then divert 3rd Infantry and the artillery to target Law and prevent what is supposed to be, I think, the supporting arm of their attack from connecting. So Ransom's, already kind of decided, this wasn't such a good idea after all. And I pull first back, and then I want to kind of pour fire into Law. So they have routed across the river, or routed into me. You'll see this sometimes. It's a quirk of the AI or a quirk of the way the game's written, I guess. And every now and again, you'll get kind of a situation where the enemy retreats in a manner that defies all forms of logic. There's no way that an organized unit or a disorganized unit like this would break and decide that the best direction to retreat is definitely into the enemy uphill across the river into melee combat. This doesn't make sense, but here we are. So B's broken and retreating north. Evans decides to follow suit. I just decide to go ahead and let him know what I think about that. The 2 cav units and the skirmishers are doing a great job so far at at keeping them kind of cooped up. And I'll tell you, the thought that I had in my mind was like, oh, well, that's defeat in detail because my whole army's here and their army's over there. Why don't I go ahead and take that fort back? And I'm used to playing with Napoleons, which are a great close range gun that you use kind of as infantry support. The 3-inch rifle guns, I should keep them further back than I do in this fight, and I pay for it. So that there's a lot of things. There's a lot of good stuff you see in this battle. It's a great teaching map, but also some things that you watching this battle, don't do it. If you play this fight, don't do what I do. I sense the opportunity to try and destroy the whatever portion of the Confederate Army is holding the northern supply depot, and I come out of my fort to do it, to come fight them. And I don't know. It gets really messy. It's a fun fight, but I take probably heavier losses than I probably should. Now that at the same time we do achieve, I'm pretty sure 100% destruction of every element of the Confederate Army in this fight. So, is it worth it? Maybe for those kind of casualties, maybe it is worth it. All right, so at this point, I'm pretty sure they're not crossing the bridge. I'm watching this, and I know my camera's going everywhere, but this is probably the moment when I'm thinking like, hey, what if I did the thing? What if I attacked? Because at some juncture you do need to attack, and my hope was that I would be able to bait one or two more charges from the AI, and reduce their numbers a bit before coming on the offensive again. And I don't do that because I get the impression they're actually not going to attack. And I'm not entirely sure what kind of thought process the AI needs to go through before it decides to attack. But I'm seeing no movement, even from their cavalry, which would normally be kind of probing and moving around and whatever. And they've got one tiny artillery unit defending the first supply depot, and the other two are still across the river, haven't even set up yet. So I send a unit of skirmishers hoping to maybe bait someone to come charging at me. And then I'm pretty sure when that doesn't happen, that's when me, the player, earlier today, decided, you know what, this will be more fun if I go forth and fight. I see all the units are smaller than mine. I see they have 3 infantry, 1 artillery, and 2 cav, or no, 4 infantry if you count the one in the woods. And I can bring 5 brigades, all larger than the ones they've got. I can bring 2 artillery, so I double artillery them, and cavalry. I figure, once they get caught in the crossfire, cavalry dies in droves. If you put dedicated fire into it. So I sally forth from my defensive works, and I decide, I'm going to take that fort back. And I don't need to. I wouldn't have had to. I think it's, you notice in the top left, and 1861 is the year, 15 June is the date, and then 9:59 is the time. You've got I think you've got till like 3 p.m. or some ridiculous. It's a long time. This is early in the campaign, so the tolerances are pretty wide. They give you a lot of time to fight this battle out. So I could have just sat there and maybe blasted over the cannons or something and kind of gotten them to come at me, especially if I'd sat right here and had them come at me over this open field. That would have been probably preferable. So I'm thinking the thought process in my head was the 2 skirmishers and the 2 cavalry, which dismounted, their functionally skirmishers. So the 4 skirmishers coming from the north and the 5 brigades coming from the south would sort of give the enemy a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Now, that might have been the case, but I don't think I time it right. So there are some lessons here if you're watching. Things not to do, things that could have worked. There's the opportunity to, I think, I could have attacked from the north, and it would have been devastating. If I'd timed everything right and hit it from both sides at the same time, it could have really worked. As it is, this battle's still fun. It's still a good time. Everybody, all the majors level up. And And people, all the units get good stat gain. All the units do well. And like I said, we do get a 100% destruction of the enemy. So maybe the casualties I suffer are to a degree worth it. And that maybe I'll face a smaller force in Bull Run, or something like that. So I realized that 2nd Infantry is not going to have a clear line of fire, so I pushed them a little bit to kind of enclose on the flank, and they're going to fire into Law's right flank. And then I begin to aggressively push down with the skirmishers with an eye on killing the artillery, and then if I'm lucky as well, one of the cannons. It doesn't end up playing out that way because their front line crumbles and retreats basically into the skirmishers. And despite the fact that they're retreating, that's not a fight the skirmishers can win, predominantly because their skirmishers A have crap melee stats, but then B, they're really small units. So I'm already taking more fire into 2nd Ordnance than I should. They should be maybe a wee bit further back where 1st Ordnance is. Rifled guns aren't particularly good at delivering. I mean, they're okay at it, but there are better means to deliver canister shot. And that cav unit Whitehead running around to my left, oh my goodness, they cause the biggest headache. I'm watching this and I'm like, man, how did I not close that gap, or how did I not decide to chase them? So this whole battle force here in the force, in the fort, the 3 infantry brigades and the cannon, they all get wrecked. I don't think they all shatter. I think the cannons do, but I'm pretty sure everyone else makes it out. But this battle force just gets destroyed. None of these units are going to be able to meaningfully. They'll be able to pick at stuff, but they're not going to be able to meaningfully threaten anyone in the rest of the battle. Yeah, the cannon's gone. I think so we're hitting them from enough sides. But in abandoning the river crossing, I've allowed the other units time to get into position. Now, it's possible they're tired. They're all degraded from their initial fighting strength. The impact of the arrival of this 2nd unit, or 2nd, I guess, division, is far less than it would have been if I hadn't shot the crap out of them on the way over the bridge or the ford. But they're still here to fight. So defeat in detail, I did not. Unfortunately. So I send 1st Infantry into charge. This cannon unit Davidson, because they're routing, so I figure I can sort of double down on it. And then at that point in time, that's when me, the player, I realized like, oh, there's also a 2nd unit of artillery emboldened. And normally I could trust 1st Infantry skirmishers to handle 1 battery, but I'm not sure if they can handle 2. So we will soon push into the fort, but I'm only too happy for the AI to continue to walk into this fort and get shot at from 3 or 4 different units and 2 different directions and all that kind of stuff. These units basically instant shatter. Instant rout. It's worth noting there's shattering is not an in-game term. Like I think I've started using it because of the same terminology from Total War games where units can have their flag turn white and run away, but then they'll eventually rally. But when they shatter, you can't control them and they just walk off the map. So that same behavior in this game, I call the same thing, shattering, and that's semi-appropriate because the dude who made this game, Dardis, kind of cut his teeth making mods for Total War games. I think his first one was probably in Empire Total War, perhaps. So Whitehead, that cav unit chasing my supply wagon. Man, this dude is, yeah. You as a player, just kind of watch this video and again watch like, okay, things not to do. oh my God, don't let this kind of thing happen. And then alternatively, if you are controlling cavalry or you are the player, do exactly try and make this kind of thing happen. Oh, Jesus. This cav unit in my rear, they just constantly come and harry my stuff and shoot my cannons and shoot my dudes. And, like, they take pot shots at my artillery. They probably kill a cannon. Like, they're totally worth their money. And if you can get your cannons, your cavalry to do the same, like, by all means. So I was confident that my skirmishers could handle 2 small artillery units, and they can. But they've sent Law or Lee, I can't tell, to try and fight me in melee, and that's a fight that I'm just gonna lose. And I'm, you know, I spent a couple seconds thinking, like, can I get them out of there? And then I just kind of realized I can't. So yeah, I've taken the fort. I mean, I could end the battle right now. You see on the top screen, top right of the screen, that they're saying, "Hey, you can finish." But the big meta campaign, or the big meta resource you need to be watching as a player, is the army size of the AI. I mentioned this before. If you can inflict significant casualties on the Confederacy in this campaign, or the Union in my last playthrough, you really start paying positive dividends for yourself in later battles. It won't really matter so much here because you won't have the opportunity to degrade their numbers enough. Yeah. But you can probably, through smart play, you can get to the point where the AI is smaller in, say, Shiloh than they would have been. And it's meaningful. So you can't really do it meaningfully before Bull Run. You don't have enough chance. But before Shiloh, you can absolutely get to the point where you've degraded the AI army strength, meaningfully so. So in every battle, I'm always trying to maximize kills. So now watch 4th Infantry as they kind of try and shoot Evans, but the AI is, like, dumb about kind of how it handles this. So just tell the unit they can't shoot, and put them on run, and they'll finish their maneuver, and then tell them they can shoot, and then all of a sudden, oh look, they'll be able to get flank fire. And in this instance, because I don't want the garrison unit trading fire with Evans, I charge in 4th Infantry to just kind of finish them off, or get them to run away. I don't think they shatter, but they have routed almost immediately. I mean, you took a volley immediately into your rear quarter flank, and then someone charges in that exact same direction. Like, yeah, it's a bit of a hit to your willingness to keep fighting. Whitehead keeps challenging the fort. Me, the player, I'm like, yes, please, just keep ramming your head into that brick wall. There's no universe in which Whitehead can ever, meaningfully affect the fort. And now that the supply wagon is in said fort, he can't get to it either. So that part's great, except that now I've made the mistake of capturing this fort, and now I have to keep holding it. And so the exact same things that I exploited to take it, the AI will also attempt to exploit. So I used multiple units to shoot at the guys in the fort, because now whoever mans the defensive works inside that fort, their unit footprint is literally the entire fort. And anybody you can get in range of that fort can shoot at it. So, I've found weirdly that it's less suicidal to just stand in the fort. Because you still get the cover bonus. I mean, it's not, I think, as... It's weird. Like, certain parts of the fort you can stand in and get the cover bonus, and other parts you can't. I don't understand. Like, look at 1st Dragoon. They've got 100% cover. They're in the fort. That's great. But then, like, I'll move them into another place and they won't have it. And I don't understand. But hey, whatever. So yeah, that's great. Whitehead gets a shot off into the rear of my artillery, which is just, it's beautiful for Whitehead. Like, it's great that the AI does this, and the AI is really good at micromanaging these units. So the AI, I feel like they get way more mileage out of dedicated skirmish units and dedicated cav units like this. They get way way more mileage out of it than I do because I'm only a person. But essentially, what I'm doing here is I'm using the fort as an anchor around which to rotate the rest of my force. I detach, so to speak, 1st Infantry from my brigade line or my division line, and the intent there is for them to go hunt those 2 artillery units, while the larger 3rd, 2nd, and 4th Infantry handle the Confederate infantry. The 1st Infantry's taken enough losses that I want to use them in a secondary role, basically kind of a side mission, and the other line infantry units, all give or take 700 guys. I figure they're in fighting shape, and so they can tangle with the Confederate units who are all averaging 300-ish. Walker's big; he's kind of an outlier, but they're all small. So, yeah, I'm still rotating around the fort. I'm still basically kind of utilizing it as a no man's land where I've got the cav unit utilizing the fact that they have 100% cover to simply occupy the AI's attention. AI hates skirmishers, and AI hates dudes in forts, and that's skirmisher unit in a fort. Super hate. So they're coming right at me in this conga line of just please flank me. And I keep sending 1st forward, and I keep rotating around the fort, and we're just going to keep on, bringing the wheel around. I'm also utilizing the Allied skirmishers up north to keep the Confederate units busy on that front too, so they can't bring all of their troops to hit me in the middle. Yep, sweet. So Daniel routes or shatters, whatever. First charges Embolden, and Davidson is next. And I remember oh crap, Evans is still here. So Evans was the guy I charged a second ago, who was moving on the South Fort. And I think, again, watching this, I could have taken the defenders in the Southern Fort out of said fort and had them trade blows with Evans for a while, because they outnumber them, 2.25 to 1. I was there's 800 to there's 300, so it's a 2.2 or 2.1. It's not bad. Instead, I just put Richards in blocking terrain. Oh, they only have 600. Okay, never mind. Nearly 2 to 1. But I put Richards in blocking position, and that's enough. With the 2 cannon units at this close range, they can provide supporting fire, and Evans won't be long for the world. So the attacks on the fort have, for the moment, ceased. I think that they continue again, but for the time being, the attacks have mostly ceased. And this makes me sad. Scales is wounded, which is a shame. He'll be back at the after Bull Run. So let's talk about how that works. When a character is wounded, the game just gates all of that around a. So there you go. First Dragoon successfully kills a unit. Richards thankfully gets in a position before Whitehead gets a chance to fire off another damn volley into my stupid cannons. Oh, that damn cav unit! I'm so mad at myself for playing this battle and not just eradicating him, because it's just. All right, so they're pushing south with a significant threat, such that the cav can't hold it back anymore. But they're rock stars. They've been kicking butt, and I think they got 600 kills or whatever. So it's fantastic. I pushed Richards in just to kind of engage them, and then. Yeah, so we engage in melee. I put supporting canister fire. I charge 3rd in. And the reason I'm doing this is exactly what happens is I want to try and capture a unit. And so I'll talk about capturing as well. So first wounded. If an officer gets wounded, they are on the bench. They're unusable until you finish the next major battle. So in this instance, I'll finish Bull Run, and all my guys who are wounded, they'll come off the bench. But if there's some longer campaigns, like I'm pretty sure the run up to Shiloh is 4 battles, or 3 battles and then Shiloh. So if a guy gets wounded in the first battle, the first mini battle, he's unavailable until after Shiloh. So it's a long time. So getting your guys wounded early is rough. Here, not so bad, but still kind of frustrating because he's a major that would have definitely ticked over to Colonel or Light Colonel. So it is what it is. So then we talk about capturing. So if a unit is routing and surrounded enough and, engaged enough, they'll, instead of just continuing to get slaughtered, they will surrender. And after the battle, you get additional recruits from the game for every like a 1-for-1-ish. It's almost a 1-for-1 ratio. For every guy you capture, you get 1 recruit. Up to 1,000. So it's a shame because you could capture like 4,000 guys and you only get 1,000 recruits. So it's a bad trade. But as much as I'm trying to wipe them out or off the map every battle, I'm also trying to capture about 1,000 guys. And I'm also trying to capture supply wagons. I'm not terribly worried about shooting supply wagons, except that if you shoot them enough, they go away. Supply wagons, so I didn't know this, and thanks to Something Compass for pointing this out to me. If you capture a supply wagon, you can use their supplies, but if you don't, that's just straight money. Like every point of supply you capture is just straight cash that goes into your reserves. So that's excellent. Capturing those supply wagons serves like 4 or 5 different like awesome purposes. I mean, obvious step 1, deny the enemy supplies. Bonus step 2, you get more supply wagons in case you need to support more fighting fronts. So that's great too. And then the side bonuses of obvious things like, hey, so briefly 1 second. I remounted First Dragoon and then had them charge Whitehead. I just need that guy gone. And Cav is the only one that's going to be able to keep up with him. So they're a non-melee unit, but they outnumbered him by a significant margin, and he was retreating or routing. So I figured they could handle the melee. So if you don't spend the supplies, like we're not going to spend their supplies here too much. You get that money, which can then go into more guns or more artillery or more anything, right? It'd be nifty if you could put that supply directly into your supply train, but it is what it is. So I'm trying to get Edwin to charge their just bragging rights. It doesn't really do me anything, but the general unit has 60 some odd guys. It could be 50. It's 50 or 60. It's some small number like that. So I figure like a little bit of shooting and a guy charging in a melee, and before too long they're gone. They don't directly shoot. They're not directly in combat, blah, 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 all that stuff. There's a handful of special generals that have 500 men in them. And these are all the ones you've heard of. Lee, Grant, that kind of stuff. And then also your avatar. So in this case, General Fiasco, who's commanding 1st Division, were he on the battlefield, he would have 500 men 500 casualties that unit could take before it would disappear from the battlefield. And I don't know if Fiasco can die or be wounded. I wonder. It doesn't matter. So, yeah. Just keep on working on Johnson. I don't think I get him. Yeah, so I don't. But I got everything else. So, really bloody. 1,400 infantry on the Union side, 240 cavalry. But, total destruction on the Confederate side. So I don't know. Everybody, all the majors got promoted, none of the colonels. That makes me somewhat sad, but hey, more colonels. So captured some Springfield, recovered some of my own weapons, and the cannons I lost like an idiot. Got the money from the supplies and enough for either a second cav unit or to build one up. So anyway, yeah, I think from my perspective, yeah, we get 920. Oh wow, maybe it's better than 1-to-1. Interesting. We bump up army organization because we need to take more to take more units for Bull Run, and that's basically me for this battle. And I'll prep up for Bull Run, and I'll do another video for that. I sell off the Cookin Brothers because I'm never going to use them ever. The Musketoons are just not good, and that's it. So we took a lot more losses than I think I wanted to, and I think honestly it's because I'm used to playing as a Confederate, and the Union stats just aren't as good. But I will see you again for Bull Run. I'm very excited. It's a very fun battle, and we'll live and learn. So I'll learn how to play the Union, and you'll watch me fail my way to victory. So thanks for sticking around. This is Fiasco signing out for the night, and I hope you have a good one. Bye.